everyone, today we will present our presentation about conversation and preference. Before we begin, I want to introduce my member group. My name is Fadlun Nisac as the first speaker, and my friend is Aditya as the second speaker, Sinta Fauzia as the third speaker, and last, Dewi Hanifah as the fourth speaker. The first, I want to explain about definition of conversation analysis. What is conversation? Conversation is an interactive communication between two or more people. Related to the conversation, there is something called conversation analysis. Conversation analysis is approach to the study of social interaction, embracing both verbal and non-verbal conduct in situations of everyday life. There are three aspects of conversation analysis. The first is the techniques that the speaker uses during a conversation, such as the rules of turn-taking. Second is the ways in which some speaker utterances are related, for instance, conversational maxim, agency pairs, and inserted sequence. And the third is the different function that the conversation is used for example, establishing rules or communicating politeness. In this case, conversation analysis there is 5 types, such as floor, turn-taking, local management system, and transition relevant place. And I want to explain about 5 types of conversation analysis. The first is floor. Floor, which can be defined as the right to speak when they get communication or interaction. The second is turn, which can be defined as having control of the scarce commodity at any time. And the third is turn-taking, which can be defined as where control is not fixed in advance, anyone can try to get control. And the fourth is local management system, which can be defined as conventionally known by member of a social group. And the last is transition relevant place, which can be defined as any possible change of turn point. And next, I want to explain about pause. Pause is silence between turns. Pause can be a simple hesitation or silence. A speaker is silent 2 until 3 seconds at the time of speaking. There are 2 types of pause. The first is filled pause, such as and second is unfilled pause or silent pause. For example, the interaction between a student and his friend father during their first meeting. The next is unfilled pause or silent pause or attributable silence. It usually occurs if one speaker actually turns over the floor to another and the other does not speak. Then the silence is attributed to the second speaker and becomes significant.
Overlap is when both of speakers are trying to speak at the same time. Ini adalah keadaan ketika kedua pembicara mencoba untuk berbicara secara bersamaan di suatu waktu yang sama. Hal ini dalam setiap percakapan ditandai dengan 2 garis miring atau double splash. There are 4 types of overlaps. Yang pertama adalah terminal overlaps. It's occur when a speaker assumes that the other speakers has finished their turn and begin to speak. Hal ini terjadi ketika pembicara berasumsi bahwa lawan bicaranya telah menyelesaikan bagiannya dan mulai berbicara. Yang kedua adalah continuous. Occur when the listener acknowledging or understanding what the speaker is saying. Hal ini terjadi ketika pendengar telah setuju atau pendengar mengerti apa yang dibicarakan oleh pembicara, sehingga mereka mulai untuk berbicara. Yang ketiga adalah conditional access to the turn. It implies the current speaker yields their turn or invites another speaker to interject in the conversation, usually as collaborative effort. Hal ini menyiratkan bahwa pembicara memberikan giliran atau mengundang lawan bicara untuk menyela percakapan. Biasanya hal ini digunakan sebagai upaya untuk kolaboratif. Yang keempat adalah chordal. Consists of non-serial occurrent speaker's turn are occurring at once. Hal ini terjadi apabila dalam percakapan terdapat sebuah kompetisi, yang mana membuat lawan bicara menyela pembicara saat pembicara belum menyelesaikan bagiannya. Dalam contoh yang telah diberikan, bisa dilihat ketika Min mengatakan "He was so cool", terdapat tanda 2 garis miring di awal yang mengindikasikan overlaps. Dengan ujaran Wendy, "He was just being cool". Overlaps juga terjadi ketika Min berkata "crashing around him", yang terucap secara bersamaan dengan ujaran Wendy, "Yeah, that was really wild", dan ditandai dengan 2 garis miring. The next is back channels. Back channels is the ways of indicating that the listener is following or not objecting to what the speaker is saying. Back channel merupakan tanda untuk menunjukkan bahwa sang pendengar mengikuti pembicaraan atau tidak memiliki sanggahan atau setuju terhadap apa yang pembicara sampaikan. It is response. Ini merupakan respon bahwa pendengar memperhatikan apa yang pembicara sampaikan. Dalam back channels, there are 2 types. The first one is vocal, such as yeah, okay, oh, or non-vocal, such as head nods, menganggukkan kepala, smile, tersenyum, and other facial expressions and gestures. Dapat dilihat dari contoh bahwa Mary di sini memperhatikan dan tidak memiliki sanggahan terhadap apa yang dibicarakan oleh sang Keller dengan mengindikasikan vokal back channel dan yeah. Conversational style is the characterized of the turn-taking system of conversation that invested with meaning by the users. Features of conversational style will often be interpreted as personality traits. Conversational style ini adalah karakterisasi dari sistem turn-taking dalam percakapan yang mengandung makna dari penggunanya. Conversational style ini sering diinterpretasikan sebagai ciri-ciri kepribadian. There are 2 major types of conversational style. The first one is high involvement style. Well, some individuals expect that participation in a conversation will be very active. That speaking rate will be relatively fast, with almost no pausing between turns, and with some overlap or even competition between turns. Dalam style ini, beberapa individu berharap bahwa partisipasi dalam percakapan akan terjadi dengan sangat aktif, yang mana pembicaraan akan relatif cepat, hampir tanpa pause, dan dengan beberapa overlap atau mungkin kompetisi dalam turns. Yang kedua adalah high considerateness style. In this style, the speaker use a slow rate, expect lower pauses between turns, do not overlaps, and avoid interruption or completion of the other's turn. Dalam style ini, pembicaraan akan lebih lambat. Pembicara akan mengharapkan pause yang lebih lama di antara turn. Pembicara tidak akan melakukan overlaps dan menghindari menyela bagian dari lawan bicara. Atau pembicara akan menunggu lawan bicara selesai dengan bagiannya dan mulai berbicara. Dalam perbedaan gaya percakapan, jika kedua pembicara memiliki gaya percakapan yang berbeda dan dalam satu percakapan, kemungkinan dapat menyebabkan percakapan satu arah, yang mana bisa salah satu style yang aktif dan salah satu style yang lebih diam.
Agency pairs. Agency pairs is a unit of conversation that contains an exchange of one turn each by two speakers. Agency pairs consist of first and second part that produced by different speakers. The utterance of the first part immediately creates an expectation of the utterance of a second part of the pair. Failure to produce the second part will be treated as significant and hence meaningful. There are four types of agency pairs. 1. Automatic pattern, such as greeting and goodbye. For example, first part, Anna, hello. Second part, Bill, hi. Anna, how are you? Bill, fine. Anna, see you. Bill, bye. And 2. Variation, such as in the opening of the conversation. For the example, first part, A, what's up? Second part, B, nothing much. A, where is your brother? Second part, B, as usual. And 3, question answer, sequence, thanking response, and request accept. For example, first part, A, what time is it? Second part, B, about 8:30. A, thanks. B, you are welcome. A, could you help me? B, sure. And the last is insertion sequence. Key 1, key 2, A2, A1. It divides as two types using the form key 1, key 2, A2, A1 and mix the different sequence. For the example form key 1, key 2, A2, A1. Agent, do you want the early flight? As key 1. Client, what time does it arrive? As key 2. And then agent 9:45 as A2. Client, yeah, that's great, as A1. And then mix of different sequence possible. For example, Bill, could you mail this letter for me? As key 1. John, does it have a stamp on? As key 2. And then Bill, yeah, as A2. John, okay, as A1.
And the last is about preference. Preference is the term used to indicate a socially determined structural pattern, and it doesn't refer to any individual's mental or emotional desires. Basically, a first part or the first people who talk that contain a request or an offer is typically made in the expectation that the second part will be an acceptance. An acceptance is structurally more likely than refusal. This structurally is called preference. Preference structure divides second part into preferred and dispreferred social act. The preferred is the structurally expected next act, while the dispreferred is the structurally unexpected next act. For example, in this example, there are first part and second part. A. Can you help me? Sure. B. Want some coffee? Yes, please. C. Isn't that really great? Yes, it is. D. Maybe we could go for a walk. That would be great. This is the example of preferred social act. In the A sentence, it is a request, and the B is a offer, C is an assessment, and D is a proposal. And the next is example of this preferred social act. Becky, come over for some coffee later. Wally said, oh, I'd love to, but you see, I'm supposed to get this finished. The Wallis expression is a refusal. It can be accomplished without saying no. Sometimes the second part is silence to respond the first part. Silence as response is an extreme case and it's almost risking the impression of non-participation in the conversational structure. For example, Cindy, so Syropodis do hands, I guess, Julie said. Um, well, out there, they mostly work on people's feet. In the Julie sentence is example of this preferred second part. It is marked with initial hesitation as if it is difficult to perform this action. Hesitation and preface are also found in this preferred second part to invitation. The expression of this preferred would represent disdain and lack of connection. The best way to avoid the this preferred second part is not to get the point where a first part of the pair is U-turn. It must follow that the conversation between those who are close familiars will tend to have fewer elaborate this preferred. Then, the conversation between those who are still working out their social relationship. In the preferred shown acceptance, such as yes, agree, accept, and others, while the dispreferred sound a refusal. The signal such as no, pause, like oh, well, I'm not sure, I don't know, that's great, I'd love to, I'm sorry, what pity, I must do, you see, and others.